What if AI taking jobs is actually good news for quiet professionals? And I know that sounds wild because every single headline is screaming about layoffs and automation. But I've spent 20 years in human resources and I'm watching something fascinating happen. The companies that are actually using AI aren't replacing people like you. They're building agentic organizations. And quiet professionals have a massive advantage here that nobody's talking about yet. So stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll see how AI might not erase your value, but actually amplify it in ways that no one's talking about. We've all seen the headlines. AI is taking over jobs. Automation will replace humans. And honestly, some of the stories behind those headlines are real. Salesforce laid off around 4,000 people after introducing AI agents to handle customer support work. Klarna CEO said, why hire dozens of people when one AI can do the job, and then paused hiring for almost a year. And BT Group in the United Kingdom said that it plans to cut up to 55,000 jobs by 2030, with about 10,000 of those replaced by AI systems. These decisions make headlines because they're unsettling. They feed the fear that AI means job loss. And in some cases, those fears are valid. But that's not the whole story. Not every single company is moving in that direction. Some are learning how to use AI differently and not to replace people, but to actually redesign how work gets done. According to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs Report 2025, advances in AI and data processing alone are expected to create about 11 million new roles and replace about 9 million by 2030. So that's a modest net gain. But when you look at the broader picture, so all the technologies and economic shifts combined, the forum projects a net gain of around 78 million jobs worldwide, with 170 million created and 92 million displaced. So yes, work is definitely changing, but it isn't disappearing. So what's really happening is a shift in how organizations think about value. Some are using AI as a quick cost-cutting tool, and others are using it to rethink roles, to build workplaces that rely more on human judgment and not less. So there's a balance of replacement and redesign that's actually happening. Even the companies adopting AI aren't as far ahead as the headlines make it sound. According to the Stanford AI Index, around 78% of organizations use some form of AI in 2024, which is an increase from 55% the year before. And that sounds really impressive, but the numbers tell a more nuanced story. The RSM 2025 Middle Market Survey found that only 25% of those companies have fully integrated AI into their core workflows. And another 43% said AI is used in some operations, and the rest are still running pilots or small experiments. So in other words, roughly 3 out of 4 companies are still trying to figure it out. They're not replacing entire teams with machines. They're testing where AI helps and where it doesn't, and how people need to work alongside it. And that's a very different picture from AI is taking over. And even among early adopters, progress has been uneven. So larger data-driven sectors like finance, tech, and healthcare are moving way faster. And industries like retail, construction, and small professional services firms are still in early stages. Daniel Lee, who is a researcher from MIT Sloan, describes one of the biggest barriers this way. The challenge isn't building a smart model. It's building the infrastructure and data quality to make that model useful inside a business. So many organizations simply don't have the systems or the skills yet. A lot of them are still learning, experimenting, and realizing that human oversight and context are what make these tools work. And that's where agentic organization starts to come in. They're in the workplaces learning how to pair human judgment with machine efficiency in a way that actually scales. And understanding how they work could actually change how you think about your own career path. So let's unpack this term because agentic organization sounds super duper technical, but what it describes is actually very human. According to McKinsey's 2025 report, the agentic organization, companies are actually designing around collaboration between humans and AI agents, or digital tools that can handle specific, repeatable workflows on their own once they're given a goal. And think of them less as robots replacing people and more as teammates that are taking on the repetitive data-heavy work so that humans can focus on the things that still require context and judgment and creativity. So in this type of organizational model, leadership also looks very differently. Instead of managing layers of people and approvals, small teams orchestrate networks of AI systems and other people to deliver outcomes faster and more thoughtfully. It's a shift from that command and control style to guidance and oversight. It's where the human role is to define direction, set boundaries, and also interpret the results. McKinsey calls this the largest organizational transformation since the Industrial Revolution. And the goal isn't to make machines autonomous. It's to design workforce intelligence where people and technology complement each other's strengths. And the result is an organization that does move faster, but also becomes more human at its core. Because when that repetitive work is automated, what stands out is the ability to think clearly, make good decisions, and communicate with care. In agentic organizations, the loudest person in the room isn't necessarily going to be the most visible person anymore. But the person who brings discernment, who sees patterns, asks better questions, and can navigate complexity becomes the one that people listen to. So what does that look like in practice, and how do you fit in as a quiet professional? Many banks are now using what they call agent squads. So small teams of people working alongside AI systems that scan transactions, can run compliance checks, and flag potential fraud. But AI does the volume work in processing thousands and thousands of data points in seconds. So then humans step in to interpret what the system finds, and they decide which alerts truly matter and ensure that ethical and legal standards are met. It has been reported that this has cut processing time and effort by up to 50% while improving accuracy. For employees, that means less manual repetition and more focus on analysis and decision-making, work that depends on focus and sound judgment. Across Europe, energy and telecommunication companies are using AI concierge that combined chat, voice, and predictive tools to help customers faster. So the system answers common questions and anticipate needs, but when something unusual happens, so maybe a billing error or a outage that affects safety, a human actually steps in. The human role has shifted from following scripts to handling exceptions, the situations that require empathy, clear explanations, and trust building. So these jobs now rely less on speed and more on clear communication and problem solving. Hospitals are also adopting agentic workflows. AI tools read imaging scans, they summarize patient records, and they handle scheduling and documentation as well. And hospitals using AI-assisted systems have reduced administrative time by 70 to 90%, allowing doctors and nurses to actually spend more time with their patients. And AI supports the diagnostic process, whereas the human professionals still provide interpretation, context, and the actual care. So the parts of medicine that cannot be automated. And across all of these examples, the pattern is that AI handles the repetition and humans handle the meaning. So what does that mean for you? And how do you start thriving in this new landscape? According to MIT Sloan's 2025 Workforce Intelligence Report, the human capabilities most linked to job growth in the AI era are what they call EPOCH or EPIC. So empathy, presence, opinion, creativity, and hope. Every one of those sits right in the center of quiet leaders. You listen before you speak. You think deeply before you decide. You steady a room instead of competing for airtime. And when things feel uncertain, you model calmness, which is another way of saying hope. And these aren't soft skills. These are the skills that are actually holding modern workplaces together. For years, we talked about the T-shaped, which is having one area of expertise and a broad base of general knowledge. And that still matters. But now, as work becomes more cross-functional and technology-enabled, professionals are evolving into what McKinsey calls M-shaped. So people with multiple areas of depth, like strategic thinking or communication and AI literacy, and it's all connected by adaptability. So you don't have to become a data scientist. You just need enough fluency with AI tools to understand how they fit into your work and enough competence to guide the parts that can't be automated. And that combination of technical awareness plus human discernment is what makes quiet professionals so valuable in agentic organizations. You're not competing with AI. You're actually training it. You're interpreting it and deciding where it stops. So instead of asking, will AI take my job? The better question to ask is actually, how can I make my work the kind of work only a human can do? And if you've ever been told to speak up more, remember that yes, you still need to be visible, but visibility doesn't mean loudness or volume. It's not about talking over others. It's about being seen for the way that you think, the steadiness that you bring, and the value that you add when it counts. So the future of work rewards clarity and depth. And that's where quiet professionals naturally stand out. All the things that you already bring. If you want help translating those strengths into visible impact, I created a free guide called Becoming Seen, the Quiet Leader's Identity Workbook. It's simple, reflective, and it's going to help you reconnect with your professional identity and show up in a way that is authentically you. And this is extremely important because before you start learning new tools, you have to know how you work best. And that's what this next phase of leadership is really about. So while the headlines keep warning that AI is replacing people, the reality is a little bit more nuanced. The organizations that are moving thoughtfully, the ones that are building agentic structures, they're proving that when humans and AI work together, human judgment becomes more valuable and not less. Because every intelligent system still needs someone to define what good looks like. Someone who can connect the data to context. Someone who can bring empathy and ethics into decisions. And that's the quiet professional's advantage. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to lead in this new world. You just need to be the most grounded, the one who can think clearly when everyone else is reacting. In my next video, I'll walk you through the specific competencies and development areas that will help quiet professionals grow in agentic organizations. Until then, download Becoming Seen, the Quiet Leader's Identity Workbook, and it will help you reflect on your strengths, define your leadership identity, and start showing up with confidence in this new landscape.